Alright, hello guys, we're going to be talking about a potential possible snowstorm this upcoming weekend that could be very major. There's a lot of components to it that could definitely change, but we're going to be talking about those components and really what our odds are here of having a major snowstorm. You could have heard of it. It's going to be for the Mid-Atlantic, Northeast, and New England states. It's going to be very interesting to see how this one plays out. But before I get started with this video though, I would ask that you do subscribe if you do like weather-related content, and also make sure to share this video with your friends and family if they live in the impacted regions. Let's get right into things. We're going to go straight in for our simulated radar here on our GFS model, and the GFS model is kind of interesting here. This is the 12Z run, so this just came out. So let's play this one through. You can see this is going to be in the afternoon, evening time on Friday, so we're a good 4 days away, which is in range to start talking about a snowstorm, but really we have no idea about the finalized snowfall forecast. Obviously, that's going to be for the coming days, so we are going to have many updates on this storm, but we can see our precipitation down there for Kentucky, Tennessee, North Carolina, Ohio, Indiana. Let's move on a frame, and this is going to be towards about 2 a.m. on Saturday morning, and you can see the low pressure system starts racing to the east, and this is going to bring heavier precipitation into North Carolina, Virginia, West Virginia. And we see snow starting up there for Virginia, West Virginia, in through Pennsylvania and portions of Maryland as well. It's going to be very interesting to see how this one plays out. We're about to move on to our next frame, which is going to be heading towards Saturday morning, where things are going to get a lot more snowy. The snow is going to become a lot more widespread, and we're going to start to see that very heavy snowfall start to accumulate very fast. Alright, so as you can see here, this is going to be by about 8 a.m. on Saturday morning, and we see that snow really spreading across northern Virginia, the very eastern regions of West Virginia, a lot of portions of Maryland, and a lot of Pennsylvania here as well. We see those very deep blues very close in there in very northern Virginia. That's going to be for areas like Winchester and just in the north of DC here on this frame. And then we see southern Pennsylvania also getting a very decent amount of snowfall here going on as well, and some portions of western Pennsylvania there as well. It's going to be interesting. Let's move on towards that afternoon, and you can see with most of our storms this year, this one's going to follow suit, but we see that rain line move further and further north as the storm progresses, and we see DC, Northern Virginia, and southeastern Pennsylvania, New Jersey, New York City get mixed over to rain here. And that's just something that's been happening this year, and it has to do with where the temperature pattern is set up, really. But we see the heaviest of the snow move up into northern Pennsylvania and southern New York here. We see the snow finally moving into New England, which is getting very interesting. And we're about to move on where it's going to fully make its way over to New England states, and also southern Pennsylvania is going to move back into snow and maybe get some heavier snow here towards the tail end of this one as well. Very interesting storm that's going to be going over different precipitation types. Let's see what happens here. And this is going to be by about 8 p.m. on Sunday, January 26th. Or 8 p.m., on Saturday, January 25th, heading into the 26th. And we see Pennsylvania, again, that mixed line is moving further and further south as the low pressure system gets to the east of you. So we see some back-end snow here. It's still snowing a little bit there for West Virginia, Ohio. We see upstate New York, especially the Finger Lakes regions through Albany. So western in through kind of the very northern regions of New York especially, getting some moderate to heavy snow here. That's where I expect the bullseye of this storm to potentially set up. It seems like one of those storms for you guys. We see Massachusetts, Connecticut, New Hampshire, Vermont getting in some of this snow. This area is becoming a little more active lately. We're starting to see some snowstorms. If this one pans out, we're going to start to see a very active, I guess, late half of January, we're going to call it that, because we just had a pretty decent snowstorm for this area. If we get another one, we're going to start to get rolling here. Let's move on towards 2 a.m. on Sunday morning, and it starts to get really interesting again. We see that heavier snow. You see eastern Pennsylvania finally getting some, but upstate New York getting very heavy snow, and some of the Berkshires there in through Connecticut and Massachusetts especially getting some, southern Vermont as well. Pretty far south. We haven't seen this area get a ton of snow so far this season, so it'd be interesting if we did see this start to happen. We see Massachusetts, New Hampshire, Vermont, all snow, as well as northern Connecticut by this point. Now, watch our low pressure system here. You can see it's located over New Jersey and Pennsylvania, the border there, kind of near Philadelphia. Now, watch it very closely as we move on a frame towards 8 a.m. on Sunday here. And you see that elongation of those black lines there. That's the low pressure system trying to transition out over the ocean there. It's going to transition over towards kind of Cape Cod area, but we see the heaviest snow on this frame still in upstate New York, northeastern Pennsylvania, through portions of it's going to be northeastern Pennsylvania, and then eastern New York state there, Berkshire still, Vermont, New Hampshire, especially right there on that Massachusetts-New Hampshire border, up through into Maine as well. We're getting moderate to very heavy snow there at this point. All right, now we're about to move on to where we're going to see that low pressure system transition offshore of about Cape Cod and Boston, you're going to see, and this is going to lead to a lot more areas seeing a lot more snow. As you can see, in a matter of 6 hours, our low pressure system has gone from offshore of New Jersey all the way to where it's well offshore of Massachusetts. It's completely transitioned. And then this is going to lead to us seeing more moderate and heavy snow on the coasts of Maine, through the coast there of New Hampshire and the very southeastern portions of that state, and then the eastern portions of Massachusetts as well. We still see some moderate snow sticking around for upstate New York there, northern Vermont, northern New Hampshire's area like that, but it's really going to transition to where we're going to mostly see snow along the New England coast there. Let's move on another frame here towards about 8 p.m. on Sunday night, and you can see all the way down to Long Island in New York, we're ending as snow. Connecticut, all snow. Rhode Island, all snow. Boston, you're all snow for a good portion of this storm now. Massachusetts, all of New Hampshire, all of coastal Maine. Very, very snowy along the coast there. And again, that's can be attributed to that low pressure system moving offshore and letting a lot more cold air move in. And really, those middle layers, when you're really close to the low pressure system, will allow sleet to mix in and rain. But once that low pressure system is away from you, you're pretty much going to be all snow. And that's what we see happen here for sure on this model run. Now let's move towards this is going to be about 2 a.m. on Monday, January 27th. We see our low pressure system is lingering there, and we're still seeing snow by this point for Boston, coastal New Hampshire, and Maine, as well as Cape Cod. So we're probably going to see snow for those areas for a good 6 hours, maybe a bit more moderate at times. So we could see some pretty decent accumulations, I'm expecting. Again, this could be a very, very potential, very interesting storm. But the thing is, a lot of these things that this model is showing is very, very fragile, and just a little bit of differences can change it completely. So we're going to have to continue to track it. The temperature just being a little bit warmer or colder can completely change this storm, or the placement of the low pressure system or high pressure to the north. All of these things can just shift this storm completely. Let's move towards 8 a.m. on Monday, and then you can see it's basically just snow showers lingering there for Maine and Cape Cod, but it's basically done by this point. Now we're about to look at some snowfall maps on these models. Take it with a grain of salt. This could change a lot, like I've stated before, but definitely going to be interesting to see how these do. They could be quite accurate, so it's going to be good to go ahead and take a look here. Now, first off, here's our GFS model, which is the model we were just looking at, and in our blue colors, that's where we're looking at about a dusting to 3 inches of snow. In the purples, we're looking at about 3 to 6 inches of snow. In those pink shades, that's where we're looking at anywhere from 6 to 12 inches of snow. And in the green is where it's indicating there could be some areas of 12 to 24 inches of snow. And this is why I call this system major. This could be one of the bigger snowstorms of the year if everything pans out the way it has the potential to do. Most of that snow would be located, again, in upstate New York, and then some regions in central and northeastern Pennsylvania, as well as some of the Berkshires there have high potential. This could end up being a pretty much an elevation system, mostly an elevation system. And what that would mean is that the higher your elevation, the better you're going to do, and that could have a heavy role in this. And then low elevation areas could have some mixing issues that's really going to hinder the snow. But if it's just a few degrees colder, we don't have to worry about that. But if it's a few degrees warmer, then definitely the higher elevation areas are going to be the areas that mostly get snow, and then lower elevations, not so much. Now, it's going to be interesting. Let's take a look at our European model real quick, and it doesn't have as much of a storm whatsoever. This was 0Z last night, so this is kind of far away. We're going to have to see if the European picks up on a very big storm. But right now, it has those pinks. That's 10 to 18 inches of snow, but it's just very small areas in West Virginia, Pennsylvania, upstate New York, and then mostly for Maine, New Hampshire, and Vermont. It has a storm. They all have a storm. It's just looking very different on this model. But here's our Canadian model from last night, and it looks very similar to the GFS. Again, we have those greens for Pennsylvania and upstate New York, again, indicating the 12 to 24 inches, as well as for the Berkshires, like I said. But here's the 12Z that just came in, so keep a mental memory of this one. Here's the 12Z, and you can see it's shifted a bit west, and that worries me all the time because we could see this just continue to shift west and west and west every single run, and there's plenty of runs until Friday, so we'll have to wait and see. This could go in either direction, but this definitely is still pretty close to what the GFS was showing. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Again, be sure to share it with your friends and family, and I'll see you guys in the next video.